Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm Daniela and today I'm gonna be doing a book tag. I was very kindly tagged by Emily Clarice Pessoa and I'm really happy because it's the first time that someone has tagged me on something and that's why I'm really excited. I hope I do well, and without further ado, let's go for the Beauty in Books tag. So the first prompt is Beauty in Concept, and I immediately thought of this quartet, the seasonal quartet by Alice Smith. I love the idea of every book being named after a season. I love that Alice Smith wanted to explore that political period in the UK. The first book was released after the Brexit vote, and Alice Smith is Scottish, so she just wanted to think about that and why that happened. At least that's what I gathered from reading these 4 books, and I really love them. They can be read separately because they all have different characters, but what I think is interesting is that she explores unusual connections. There's usually an older character and a much younger character, and the way they meet is usually very different, and I think it's just a very beautiful way of exploring human relationships, human connections. And she also highlights at least one artist per book. Usually not very known artists, at least they weren't known to me when I read them. And I think it's just a love letter to art in general and kindness that exists in people. Even though some horrible things are happening, I think it's a very hopeful group of books. And I read them during their respective season. And I think that was just beautiful, and this is Beauty in Books, so I thought of it instantly. The second prompt is Beauty in Opening Line, and my first impulse was to say 100 Years of Solitude, one of my favorite books, because that line is iconic. But since it's such a classic and so many people love it, I've seen a lot of videos where people already mentioned that as one of the best opening lines. So I thought I could mention something that isn't so well known. And I was looking through my books, and when I picked up Play It As It Lays by John Didion, I just felt like it was the one to choose for this video. And the opening line is, "What makes Iago evil? Some people ask. I never ask." And I know it's not very lyrical or poetic as one might expect, but it really shows you a lot about Maria, the main character, right away. You know, why does she never ask what makes Iago evil? Iago is the villain in the Shakespeare's play Othello, and he just does evil things for supposedly no reason. And why does Maria not ask? Is it obvious to her, or does she just doesn't care why people make evil things? It's just something that happens and we have to accept it as it is. And that's kind of the mental state that she is in this book. She seems very unaffected by the world. And as we read the novel, we figure out that it's because she's struggling a lot. And so she has this, it's like she's in a haze perpetually. And I really want to reread this book because I feel like now I would pick up on a lot of things that I didn't pick up on the first time around. And it spoke to me. I don't know. I think it's just very effective in the way, and beautiful in the way that it communicates so much in such a simple way. The next prompt is Beauty in Character. And so I decided to go with my heart and choose Jane Eyre from Jane Eyre. I read this when I was a teenager and I was in love with it. I still think it's a great classic for people that want to get into classics. It's very readable, very accessible, very dramatic. And I just love Jane. I think she's a great protagonist. She starts the book as a child in an unfair situation with a lot of unfair things happening to her. And she's not okay with it. She's feisty. She struggles a lot with herself and what to do. And you see her grow up throughout the book. And it's like someone I know. And it's very special because of that. And she learns how to assert herself and to know what she wants. And you may agree or not with her choices and what she wants, but I think she's just a beautiful, beautiful character. The next prompt is Beauty Amidst Pain. And for that I decided to go with Mother Nature by Derek Jarman. This is a diary of Derek Jarman, so it's non-fiction. He wrote this in the beginning of the 90s when he was diagnosed with AIDS or HIV. I can't remember if he already had developed AIDS. And there's a lot of pain in his life at the moment. He is feeling his body giving up. He's seeing a lot of his friends and lovers and people that are close to him just decay and being abandoned and forgotten and die. And throughout all of that, he decided to move to a little cabin close to thermonuclear station, I believe. And he planted a garden, and it's the one you can see on the cover. And so he details a lot about the flowers that he's planting, how they are growing, and what he discovers that works and doesn't. And he's seeing beauty in that. He's creating beauty while so much ugliness is surrounding him. And so he's creating beauty while there's all this ugliness surrounding him. He knows the government is not going to help them. He knows no one is coming to save them. But he's creating beauty in what he knows are his last years. He died shortly after this. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful book with very beautiful passages, and a book that I would recommend to anyone. The next prompt is Beauty in Incompleteness. And for that I decided to go with my favorite poet, Emily Dickinson. I feel like she represents incompleteness because she didn't publish many poems herself during her lifetime, but she wrote so much. She wrote thousands and thousands of poems that she kept in her room. And when she died, that's when her sister Lavinia discovered the poems, and she just couldn't burn them as her sister had asked her to do. And so that's why we have all these poems. And so we will never know how she wanted them to be published, if she feels like they were done, if she wanted to work on them. So I feel like there's some incompleteness, and also in the way that she writes. She uses a lot of dashes, and I feel like she stops time when she does that. She just stops how the verse is going, and it's beautiful. I really, really love her writing. And there's this feeling of mystery surrounding her because we know so little, because she barely left her house in her later years. And I wish we knew more about her, and she had published her book of poems while she was alive. But alas, it did not happen. But we have a lot of her poems still, and that makes me very happy that we have this beauty among us. The next one is Beauty in Place, and for that I decided to choose The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I feel like there's a lot of books that I love that are in cities or in mountains, and they take place in our world and they are beautiful. But there's something that I love about fantasy, and that is that a place is created in our minds and nowhere else. That's the only place it lives. And so I think fantasy is one of the genres that creates more beauty in place. And who can be better than J.R.R. Tolkien? I mean, Middle Earth is such a magical, wonderful place. It has ugliness in it as well. There's darkness in it. But I think when anyone hears Middle Earth, they think of Hobbiton. They think of green grass and the smell of nice food and people in happiness and adventures and caves and dragons. And I think that's a wonderful place and a beautiful place to be in. And that's why I like to read fantasy. Next prompt is Beauty in Time. And for that I decided to go with a recent read, Pedro, Páramo by Juan Rulfo. This is a book that inspired Gabriel Garcia Marquez to write 100 Years of Solitude. And I think a lot of that is how he plays with time and place and what is happening. You never know exactly when you are in this story. Characters that you know have died long ago are talking to our main character, are talking to us. They're dead, but they are still talking among each other. It's like the whole town was frozen in time at a certain point, and it just stopped and it's not going anywhere. And so when you're there, in the narrative, it's like you're living every moment at once. It's like history is happening all at once. And I think it's why it makes for a kind of a confusing and difficult read, but also a fascinating and a beautiful one, because you have to make the puzzle in your head. You have to solve it, or at least just go with it and just feel the flow of the story and be completely displaced in time. And I think it's beautiful. I don't know how many times I've said beautiful in this video, probably too many times, but I mean, it's the topic. And finally, Beauty in Catharsis. And for that, I'll have to give some spoilers of My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Odessa Moshfegh. I know this is a book that was all around Bookstagram and Book Talk and everywhere. Everyone was talking about this book, like hot girl book or something. But I think a lot of it was lost in translation somewhere. And this is a book about someone experiencing loss, experiencing grief, in a very deep depression. And it's like our narrator is just doing things automatically, like nothing matters to her. So she decides to sleep, take a bunch of pills and sleep throughout a year. And after that year, she feels like she will be reborn. And spoilers for My Year of Rest and Relaxation. In the end, she is freed. She is happy. And I feel like after reading the entire book, where you have this person that just doesn't feel anything, that is just mean because nothing matters to her. Like, who cares if she's graceful or nice? It's not going to impact her. Nothing matters to her. And so when she, at the end, finally, there's exactly a release. There's a catharsis in the end. When something really tragic happens, which is 9/11, but she is released somehow. It's like the world changed and she changed with it. It's like she was experiencing American culture, from what I understand, at the beginning of the 2000s. It was called the end of history because people somehow thought that there were no longer problems to solve. The world was great, everything was going great, the economy was great, and then something tragic happened, and the perception of an entire country changed. And I think she woke up in that moment, and she's someone experiencing grief, but she's also someone that represents an entire country that was just going through the motions without actually rationalizing, without actually thinking, without actually feeling. And so I think that is a very cathartic book. I've read it a few years ago, so I already don't remember exactly all the details, but this is the feeling that I remember best. And I also would like to mention for this prompt one of my favorite books, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. I think this is a very cathartic book as well, because there's a mystery in the beginning, and when it's revealed what is happening, it's just, it really felt like a release, like, oh my god, I understand now. It makes total sense. And I think it's a very well written book. I really enjoyed it, and so any chance I get to just mention it, I will. And so I hope you liked this video that hopefully was full of beauty. I hope you find beautiful books filled with beautiful prose, beautiful characters, beautiful ideas, because that's what literature is all about, is finding beauty in words. And so I hope you liked this video. If you'd like to, I'd love if you subscribed and liked and commented. I'm just starting, so anything is just means the world to me, really. And I hope you have a nice week. Bye!